In America, shoplifting crimes have gone off the rails. People are giving up on their American dreams and resorting to theft to survive. The problem, though, is that the government seems to have provided them the means to do so. Major states like New York, California, and cities like San Francisco and Philadelphia are suffering from record numbers of shoplifting incidents. Hundreds of shops countrywide are being robbed, and many others are going out of business. So, as Americans struggle to cope with the rising costs of living, they now also face an insecurity crisis. In this video, we're going to be uncovering the shoplifting crisis currently destroying the American dream. There's no way to deny that shoplifting has become a growing problem across the states. Overall, 9% of Americans shoplift, and according to the data, the issue has grown into being a $100 billion nightmare. According to the National Retail Federation, inventory loss in the U.S. amounted to $94.5 billion in 2021, and the number hasn't gone down since. It's important to note, first of all, that property theft is a very big umbrella, and shoplifting is only one category under it. Shoplifting, in addition to burglaries and robberies, make up the whole picture. Using California as a reference, shoplifting refers to petty theft of items costing $950 or less and are thus classified as misdemeanors, with punishment only going as far as a 6-month prison sentence. Burglaries, on the other hand, are theft of items worth more than $950 and are thus classified as felonies, and robberies are theft crimes involving violent force. Although all three are a problem, we'll be shining the spotlight on shoplifting. It's difficult to get a hold of hard numbers concerning this crisis, but there's plenty of evidence to support it being a problem area in certain states and cities. First off, California. No state quite embodies this crisis as much as California does. Here in the Golden State, 14 of the 15 largest counties have seen a substantial uptick in commercial burglaries. 9 of the 15 saw an increase in commercial robberies, and as mentioned before, 10 of the 15 recorded notable increases in shoplifting. San Mateo had the highest rate in 2022, with 347 reported incidents per 100,000 residents, a ridiculous 53% increase from 2019. San Francisco comes in at a close second with 333 cases, a 24% increase from 2019. Over in San Francisco, entire malls and market centers are shutting down. The Westfield Mega Mall is gone, the AT&T flagship store is gone, and close to 90% of the Embarcadero Center is closed. Entire blocks of shops are closed, and what few left that still opens often have police stationed nearby for protection. Store owners are feeling hopeless. It's just simply impossible to run a business when they have thousands of dollars of inventory walking out of their store every day. In San Diego, retail theft works hand in hand with homelessness and drug crimes to force local shops out of business. Vaughn's Supermarket, located in the suburbs in San Diego, closed earlier in the year, which shows that it's not just a poor neighborhood problem, it's citywide. The average loss per shoplifting incident in 2022 stood at over $500. Statewide, California has certainly seen the worst of this shoplifting epidemic, which is no surprise when you factor in the fact that the state is one of the worst when it comes to homelessness and drug addiction. About 9% of Californians were reported to have a substance use disorder of some kind in the last year, with 4% of that being illicit drug abuse. That's more than 1.3 million people. The homelessness stats aren't any better. California is the homeless capital of America. More than 25% of the entire nation's homeless population lives in here, despite the state only comprising of 12% of the entire country's population. More than 161,000 people call the streets of California their home, and that's a nearly 10% increase in the number from 2022. That's a fact that is impossible to separate from the shoplifting crisis the state faces today, as it's likely that it's those same homeless who are easily be roped into organized retail theft rings. In the last 2 years, there's been about 170 retail theft incidents in LA, with many of the stolen goods ending up online on eBay or Amazon. In Los Angeles, the city faces the same problems, but have less resources to fight it. There's been talk of setting up a special task force dedicated to the tracking and dismantling of such theft organizations. eBay is working with the local law enforcement to flag stolen products up for sale on their platform. The city also plans to hire 22 full-time investigators and 1 dedicated prosecutor. And it's going to take a fully stacked and focused law enforcement to slow down the trend. Organized crime has become somewhat of a mega industry in California and across the US. That's because working only a few hours, quietly stealing from shops, can easily earn you $400 daily in untaxed cash, which is especially convenient for drug addicts who can use that money to fund their next high. Not that any extra motivation is required when making easy money is in play. And what's even more convenient is that people don't even have to move these stolen products themselves to make their money. That's where the fences come in. Fences are middlemen, the dealers who practically run the operations. When a relationship with a fence is formed, all the shoplifter has to do is get the stolen product to the fence, and he would handle the reselling and distribution of the item. That's not to say the issue isn't also plaguing other states as well. In Philadelphia, there was yet another looting and shoplifting spree in September 2023 after the community felt a sense of injustice over the killing of a local by a cop. Shoplifting is by far the most common crime type in Philly and always holds a tendency to spark into a huge mess. Stores like Titanium, Apple, Lululemon, and Foot Locker were hit hard during the shoplifting spree in Philadelphia. Every fine wine and spirit store was shut down because as many as 18 of them were hit by burglars and shoplifters in Philadelphia. And they're not the only ones. Currently, dozens of shops and services that weren't hit by shoplifters have also closed as a precaution. Shops nationwide are the true victims of this disaster. Walgreens is closing up to 5 stores in San Francisco alone due to organized theft. Even further, they expect to close 150 locations by mid-2024 across the U.S. Target is another big-name brand hit by the shoplifting crisis. They expect to close 1 location in East Harlem, New York, and at least 8 others across the country, including in Seattle, Portland, and of course, San Francisco. In LA and California in general, it's clothing brands that are hit the hardest. Gucci, Nike, and Nordstrom all suffer from looting and shoplifting all year round. Hey there, if you're enjoying the video so far, or you have a personal experience with shoplifting in the US, please leave a comment below with your thoughts. In Seattle, the line on shoplifting stands at $750, lower than in California, and yet the state still faces a significant shoplifting crisis. The Seattle police force spent more than 18,000 hours responding to organized retail crime calls in 2022, and losses incurred due to those crimes were billions of dollars. Because of that, consumers are seeing a $500 increase in the average cost of goods. And finally, that brings us to New York. Amidst the immigration and homelessness crisis that the city is facing, New York has also picked up a shoplifting problem to boot. The state is already home to over 90,000 homeless and is second to only California in that regard. In the last year alone, more than 100,000 immigrants have arrived at the city, and the city's resources are stretched, which all contributes to the recent increase in shoplifting in New York. Theft among small business owners has risen 77% in the last 5 years to over $330 million. A lot of them claim it's a theft organization ring behind it, with it being reported that only a handful of 300 people commit thousands of retail crime. So, there are several things to be worried about. The government can help bring down the tension with better policies and more store owner protection rights. Because these shoplifting incidents not only affect the shops, but also the low-income consumers and the economy as a whole. On average, only 1 in 48 shoplifters are caught, and about 9% of the entire population have shoplifted at least once, and there are about 27 million shoplifters in the US. It's a very ugly statistic, and if something is not done, it could bring about the true end of the American dream.